Hello then, a warm welcome to all of you here on the news tonight, where we get you the day's top stories from India and across the world in the next 30 minutes. I'm Tracy Shilchi and let's head straight to the headlines. Separatist leader Masrat Alam re-arrested in Kashmir. Protests break out in many places as demonstrators clash with police. Prime Minister Modi wraps up the three-nation tour to France, Germany and Canada. Analysts count among key successes, key deals and his pitch for Make in India. Finance Minister Arun Jaitely assures foreign investors, says India will treat taxpayers as partners and not potential hostages or victims. The Congress finalizes the strategy for protests against land ordinance. Rahul Gandhi is to meet farmers' delegations from different states tomorrow. And the International Paralympic Committee de-recognizes the Indian body for infighting and shoddy treatment to athletes during the Para-Athletics Championships last month. Our top story, protests broke out in Kashmir Valley today soon after the police re-arrested top separatist leader Masrat Alam. The incident also triggered a political slugfest on the sidelines, with various parties criticizing the state government for paving the way for an explosive situation. Masrat was booked under the Unlawful Activities Act for holding an anti-India rally on Wednesday, along with Hurriyat leader Syed Ali Shah Gilani.
Barely a month after his controversial release from prison, Masrat Alam is back in jail. The separatist leader was booked for sedition, among other offences, for hoisting the Pakistani flag at a rally in Kashmir on Wednesday. Hurriyat leader Syed Ali Shah Gilani was put under house arrest on Thursday for provocative actions at the same rally.
पहले दिन ही एफआईआर लग गया था, देशद्रोह का एफआईआर लगा था, उसके ऊपर भी था, बाकी लोग भी थे जिन्होंने पाकिस्तानी नारे लगाए और झंडे फहराए हैं। और जब मौका मिला, जब हमने परिस्थितियां ठीक देखी, पे उनको उसको अरेस्ट किया है। और आने वाले वक्त में जो है ये क्लियर कट जो मैसेज है कि केंद्र में नरेंद्र भाई मोदी की सरकार और कोलिशन सरकार जो है जम्मू कश्मीर में इस प्रकार की गतिविधि को जो है बिल्कुल स्वीकार नहीं करेगी।
The ruling PDP denied taking the action against pressure from the centre. The party claimed it was just a procedural police decision.
I think it is not about pressure that he's arrested. He's not arrested under a pressure. He's arrested under a procedure because there are charges framed against him in the Badgam police station. So I think police is taking and the law is taking its own course. It has nothing to do with the politics or from the Home Minister's pressure or the Chief Minister's pressure. He's being arrested by Jammu and Kashmir police under a due procedure and under a due course of law.
The centre is keeping a close watch on the situation, even as it maintains there will be zero tolerance to militancy and separatism.
Any fellow who has got a sympathy towards Pakistan is not acceptable. But there is a law. There are rules and regulations. You can't just simply do whatever you want. You have to follow the law. So law is taking its own course and government is very clear. We don't want anybody in our country to do an anti-national act.
But opposition parties are unconvinced. Many leaders say the action against Alam is too little, too late.
किन धाराओं के तहत गिरफ्तार किया गया है, ये जम्मू कश्मीर सरकार को बताना चाहिए.
The basic point that the BJP and the Modi government at the centre will have to answer is that what is the basis on which they made this opportunistic alliance in order to form the government in the state of Jammu and Kashmir.
The arrests were followed by a backlash in Kashmir. Protests erupted in various places with separatist groups clashing with the police. Masrat Alam is the chairman of the J&K Muslim League, which is a constituent of the hardline Hurriyat conference led by Gilani. He was convicted for organizing the anti-India protests in 2010 when 112 people were killed in stone pelting across the valley. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
So let's see how this particular incident is going to actually push forward relations between the PDP and the BJP, the joint government there in Jammu and Kashmir. We've got senior journalist Pushpa Saraf joining us from the capital. Mr. Saraf, thanks so much for joining us here on the news tonight. Give us a sense really about this incident and what it means for the BJP and the PDP alliance there in the valley.
Yeah, there has been tension in the valley for quite some days now. It began with the killing of a young person in Taral. Then there was this rally by Masrat Alam and his supporters to welcome Syed Ali Shah Gilani after his 4-month stay in Delhi, to welcome him back to the valley. And where these Pakistani flags were displayed, adding to the tension which was already there in the valley. And I think the present government is quite competent to handle the situation. Present government, PDP, is already engaged in a battle with extremist elements in the valley, extremists and anti-national elements in the valley, contrary to a perception that it is hobnobbing with the militants. I don't agree with that perception. And for BJP, it is a massive political opportunity to realize the political issues that prevail in the valley, where it has been virtually non-existent till the formation of the present coalition government in the state.
But for whom is it more of a tightrope walk, Mr. Saraf? Is it for the PDP, who is, we all know they are of course more pro-separatists, or is it, more to do with the BJP? They need to, of course, now they have to look nationally. They cannot just look at a particular state and see how things are going there. So for whom is it more of a balance act?
Exactly. I don't agree with the view that PDP is pro-separatist. PDP has taken part in the election. It doesn't question the accession of Jammu and Kashmir with India, which separatists do question. PDP has for long been engaged in a direct battle with the extremists on their turf. And for that it should be given some credit.
Okay.
And for BJP, again, it's a massive opportunity. BJP is intolerant of such elements. And BJP's position to, and BJP rather had a very strident and very strong position on Kashmir issue for years together. Now it has also climbed on a little, and for it, the present instances give quite an opportunity for the party to address politically relevant issues in the valley, concerning the valley.
Okay. At the moment, do you think this, with this rearrest of Masrat Alam, this has been somehow calmed down, the situation has been somehow calmed down, even though we are seeing protests in the valley? But as far as the relationship between the government is
Masrat
concerned,
Alam is just one of the Masrat Alam is just one of the many separatist leaders who have been there. Some of them have been in jail for quite a number of years, including husband of Asiya Indrabi. But these people have a particular viewpoint. Against that, PDP and National Conference represent a particular and very nationalist outlook, and this is a constant fight. This is what the PDP leader has called a battle of wits, and because of which he has been misunderstood also. But those who know the Kashmir issue, know its intricacies, and know the reasons why India went to the United Nations way back 66 decades ago, they can very well realize the difficulties that exist in the valley, and this sort of battle will go on for some time. And the way at least the regional parties, both PDP and National Conference, are doing, I think they should succeed in the long run.
all right. But then give us a sense really of what we see ahead, because sources were saying, after the release of Masrat Alam, sources were saying that perhaps some more separatist leaders could be released as well. That is what the PDP is perhaps going to be looking forward to. But each time they are releasing...
No, I don't think it is going to happen.
Okay, okay.
Unless some judicial process takes place and there is some judicial intervention against which political power can't do anything, and which is what has happened in the case of Masrat Alam also earlier.
All right, Mr. Saraf, giving us a positive outlook there of hope really that we can have in the valley. Thanks so much for joining us, giving us your perspective as well into what we can expect as far as the PDP and the BJP alliance is concerned in Jammu and Kashmir. It is a crucial time definitely for the government there to prove really where their where the interests lie, of course. Meanwhile, let's talk about Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He has, of course, concluded his 3-nation, 9-day tour of France, Germany and Canada. Modi's visit is being seen as extremely successful for India as he struck deals, he ensured ease of doing business in India to global leaders and achieved those key goals.
On the eve of his departure from Canada, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said he hoped the two countries would maintain the close relationship in the future. At a dinner reception hosted by his Canadian counterpart, Modi also said his visit to the North American country was not only significant as the first by an Indian Prime Minister in 42 years, but because of how the visit had rejuvenated ties between the two countries.
ये यात्रा को मैं कई तरह से सफल मानता हूं। भारत और कनाडा के बीच इतना सब कुछ होते हुए भी वे एक दूसरे के ध्यान से हट गए थे। नहीं मिलने से यह स्वाभाविक भी था। अब मुझे विश्वास है कि हम एक दूसरे के ध्यान में ही नहीं, प्रयासों में भी साथ-साथ रहेंगे, साथ-साथ चलेंगे, साथ-साथ पाएंगे।
Modi also expressed hope that a bilateral investment promotion and protection agreement and comprehensive economic partnership agreement between the two countries would happen soon. His counterpart Stephen Harper, on the other hand, stressed on the contribution made by the Indo-Canadian community, declaring that Canada would always stand by India.
Make no mistake, the government of Canada and Canadians overwhelmingly support and will always stand by the unity and the strength of India in the world.
Earlier, Modi and Harper visited a Gurdwara in Vancouver. Both leaders were gifted Sikh ceremonial swords as a memento. Modi hailed the Sikh community in Canada, while Harper also acknowledged the contribution of the Sikhs to the Canadian economy and culture. The two leaders also offered prayers at a temple. A large number of expatriate Indians thronged the temple to get a glimpse of the leaders.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा है, हिंदू धर्म ये कोई रिलीजन नहीं है, ये कोई पूजा पद्धति का नाम नहीं है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा है, इट्स अ वे ऑफ लाइफ।
Modi's tour of the three countries is being seen as extremely successful. The primary aim of this tour was to seek investments for the ambitious Make in India program that promises to generate employment and revenue for the economy. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, Finance Minister Arun Jaitly assured foreign investors against any retrospective action by the government. He also insisted that the government will treat taxpayers as partners and not potential hostages or victims. Jaitly is currently in the US to attend the IMF World Bank spring meeting that starts tomorrow. In an address to the Peterson Institute for International Economics in Washington, Jaitly affirmed that the government is committed to a transparent tax regime. He also expressed confidence that the Parliament will pass the Constitutional Amendment Bill for Goods and Services Tax in the next 3 weeks.
Was a highly adversarial regime. We intend rationalizing it and making the tax department a lot more friendly to the assessee itself. Look at the taxation vision. Our government had clearly stated, and I've repeated it several times, that we are not a high tax government. And therefore, our taxation policy is going to be guided by that principle.
Back after his 2-month sabbatical, Rahul Gandhi will be meeting delegations of farmers from different states tomorrow at 11 in the morning. The meeting will be held a day before Congress's rally to galvanize protests against the land ordinance. The delegation will include farmers from Bhatta Parsol village, from where Rahul had launched a protest in 2011 against forcible land acquisition.
After a 2-month-long break, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi is now all set to take party's charge. He'll be meeting delegations of farmers ahead of the Congress's mega rally on Sunday at the Ramlila Maidan in Delhi to intensify its protests against the land ordinance reissued last month. Rahul went on leave on 22nd of February, a day before the crucial budget session started. This was the period when the NDA government faced stiff opposition to its proposed new land acquisition law in the parliament, forcing it to make amendments.
He has today taken a review of his office because he is the vice president of the party. He has been away for a while. From tomorrow, he starts meeting with the leaders and representatives of the farmers from Delhi, adjoining areas, and the states of Haryana, Western UP, Rajasthan, Punjab.
He brought the land acquisition bill in 2013. He himself has told, the previous it was a special economic zone. In the name of special economic zone, people are making real estate business. After that only Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi thinking to benefit of the farmers, we brought that bill. Now they are making against the farmers because there is anti-farmers, the NDA government. Definitely my leader will talk tomorrow in a Ramlila Maidan and at the same time in Parliament also.
The rally also assumes significance as it being held on the eve of the opening of the second phase of the budget session of Parliament and at a time when the government has repromulgated the land acquisition ordinance.
जो एनडीए सरकार में और भारतीय जनता पार्टी सरकार में किसानों का भूमि अधिग्रहण अधिनियम के अध्यादेश के माध्यम से हक छीना जा रहा है, उनकी जमीन जबरदस्ती ली जा रही है, किसानों में रोष है.
Congress also stepped up its criticism against Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday. The party took strong exception to the Prime Minister's apparent dig at Congress during his speech in Toronto on Thursday.
उन्होंने अपने से पहले की सब सरकारों को, विशेषकर पिछली यूपीए की सरकार को बदनाम करने की कोशिश की. देश के बाहर जाकर कभी भारत के किसी प्रधानमंत्री ने इस तरह की बात प्रतिपक्ष के बारे में नहीं की.
However, BJP claimed Prime Minister's effort to bring investment and jobs to India has caused a lot of heartburn in the opposition camp.
It is a classic case of grapes being sour. It is out of frustration that Congress is using all kind of unparliamentary, unsavory words for none other than the Prime Minister of this country. And Mr. Modi is working relentlessly to see to it that investment is drawn into this country, that employment is provided to thousands and lakhs of the unemployed youth of this country.
Meanwhile, there is a lot of interest over possible organizational changes expected in Congress. All eyes are on whether Rahul Gandhi will be elevated to replace his mother Sonia Gandhi at the helm, despite opposing views within the party. With inputs from Pranav Goswami, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And coming up next, Jaitly gets extension to her bail in the assets case from Supreme Court. Details ahead.
Rahul Gandhi is back in Delhi after a long sabbatical. Questions for the Congress. Should Rahul take charge of the party? Watch The Big Picture on Rajya Sabha TV at 9:30 p.m.
पंजाब की मिट्टी का खालिस रंग, सहजता और सरलता है मिजाज में.
स्ट्रगल को मैंने इतना ज्यादा एंजॉय किया. मैं किसी के भी घर में जाता था, कभी नहीं भी अच्छी तरह रहते थे, उस माहौल को बहुत एंजॉय करते.
जिनकी आवाज से झूमा बॉलीवुड भी और जहां सूफियाना कलाम की है चाशनी भी. मिलिए शख्सियत में जसबीर जस्सी से, सिर्फ राज्य सभा टीवी पर.
Welcome back. Let's get you some national news now. The Supreme Court today extended the bail of former Tamil Nadu Chief Minister and AIDMK Chief Jaitly till 12th of May. Jaitly will remain on bail until the Karnataka High Court decides on her disposal of her appeal against conviction. The Supreme Court directed the Karnataka High Court to hold daily hearings to dispose of Jaitly's appeal against a conviction last year in the disproportionate assets case. Now, an Supreme Court bench also gave liberty to the High Court judge to move the application in future for extension of time for delivering the judgment in view of the fact that a matter connected to the case is pending in the apex court before the larger bench. Jaitly was sentenced to a 4-year jail term in an 18-year-old corruption case.
The Lordship has stated that bail would be extended till the disposal of the appeal pending before Karnataka High Court, as well as in reference has been made to the constitution of larger bench with regard to the another matter. Finally, extension has been given up to 12th of May.
And now some more quick updates from across the country and nationwide. The Supreme Court has put on hold 2 defamation cases against Delhi Chief Minister Arun Kejriwal today. The apex court also issued the notice to the centre on Kejriwal's petition that there should be no criminal action in defamation proceedings. One of the cases was filed by Union Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari, accusing Kejriwal of linking him to corruption. The Madhya Pradesh High Court today passed stay orders on FIR against State Governor Naresh Yadav in the MP Professional Examinations Board scam. The bench reserved the details of the order in the case while hearing the petition filed by the governor. Naresh Yadav had pleaded that criminal proceedings cannot be initiated against the president or governor. A lawyer was found dead in the Tees Hazari Court complex in New Delhi today. The body of Rajiv Sharma was found near a roadside eatery behind the court complex. Delhi police said that the lawyer was possibly murdered. One person was arrested and 3 others have been detained for questioning. A massive fire broke out at a scrap market in Mumbai early this morning. It took several hours for fire tenders to douse the flames. However, no casualties were reported in the incident. The market area had more than 100 shops and the fire resulted into huge losses. The cause of the fire remains uncertain. All right, international news now. And amid growing humanitarian crisis, Yemen's vice president has now called for a comprehensive ceasefire. He stressed that a ceasefire will be one of the key preconditions to begin talks to end the fighting. Over 120,000 people have so far fled the country since Saudi-led airstrikes began targeting Houthi rebels.
The crisis in Yemen is boiling over. The Houthi rebels are opening new fronts to counter airstrikes by the Saudis. Their supporters held rallies in Yemen protesting against United Nations resolution on arms embargo. But there is no let-up in the Saudi-led airstrikes that started 2 weeks back.
خلال 24 ساعة كان في عمليات مستمرة وكان في دعم بالطيران. الأوضاع الآن داخل تعز مستقرة ولكن كما أكدت لك من أول أختي إنه هذه العناصر تتواجد داخل المدن السكانية.
Over 120,000 people have fled the country since the crisis began. Despite Red Cross aid trickling in, Yemeni capital Sana'a is low on medical supply and fuel.
الصحة العامة والسكان في الجمهورية اليمنية تطلق نداء استغاثة بإنقاذ عاجل للوضع الصحي من الانهيار الكامل الوشيك وتحذر من كارثة صحية ستحدث بسبب العجز الذي وصلت إليها المستشفيات.
Amid the growing crisis, Yemen's newly appointed vice president proposed ceasefire to start talks to end the fighting.
الاجتياح على عدد المناطق وخاصة الاحتراب الموجود في عدن ونتحدث عن أي مبادرات. أي مبادرات طيبة ونوايا صادقة من أي طرف يجب أولا إيقاف آلة الحرب.
But Saudi Arabia has not responded to the offer made by Yemen. The Saudis had earlier rejected Iran's proposal to withdraw forces to start negotiations. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
A Snap opinion poll has declared opposition Labour leader Ed Miliband the winner of the final TV debate of the knife-edged British election campaign. But the debate itself was oddly unbalanced as Prime Minister David Cameron chose not to take part.
And David Cameron has chosen not to come tonight. He's chosen not to defend his record. I believe that Britain can do so much better, and not a penny of our plan is paid for from extra borrowing.
Opposition leader Ed Miliband chose to highlight Prime Minister David Cameron's absence from the televised debate. It was a risk that Miliband took as he appeared in the contest that pitted him against leaders of 4 smaller parties.
I don't say there's no difference between Ed Miliband and David Cameron. I say there's not a big enough difference between Ed Miliband and David Cameron.
There's a total lack of comprehension on this panel, and indeed amongst this audience, which is a remarkable audience, even by the left-wing standards of the BBC. I mean, this lot's pretty left-wing.
Miliband probably saw the debate as an opportunity to showcase his own oft-questioned leadership credentials. A poll published after the 90-minute debate suggested his gamble may have paid off, with 35% of a sample of people who had watched the debate judging Miliband the winner, with Scottish nationalist leader Nicola Sturgeon second. With most opinion polls showing Cameron's Conservatives neck and neck with Labour ahead of what is shaping up to be the closest British election since the 1970s, both parties are seeking a game-changing moment. So far, nothing that has been said or done by any politician has shifted the poll significantly. Britain will vote for its new Prime Minister on May 7th. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And let's give you more international news updates in Global Buzz. Iraq released footages are showing fresh airstrikes hitting Islamic State's targets in Ramadi. The strikes come after the IS militants overpowered several villages in the area on Wednesday. Ramadi is a stronghold of the Islamic State forces who have captured much of northern and western Iraq. Satellite images have shown that China is building an airstrip suitable for military use on a reef in the disputed water of South China Sea. China, however, reiterated that construction was conducted within its territory and called it legal. China's move has raised concern around the Asia-Pacific region, with the US and Philippines criticizing it. Former International Monetary Fund chief Rodrigo Rato was released from police custody earlier today. He was arrested after Spanish authorities searched his home and office over suspected fraud and money laundering. He was released after cooperating with authorities who seized documents relevant to the investigation. The International Paralympic Committee today de-recognized the Paralympic Committee of India over infighting within the body and giving shoddy treatment to athletes in Ghaziabad during the National Parathletics Championships last month. In a letter written by the International Paralympic Committee on the 15th of April and sent by email to PCI, the suspension is for an indefinite period of time. This is the third time that India has been suspended by the IPC. The PCI is also facing government's de-recognition after Sports Minister issued a show-cause notice to the association over mismanagement during events in Ghaziabad. Due to the world body suspension that comes into immediate effect, Indian athletes will not be able to participate in any of the international events till the ban is lifted. The World Blind Games are scheduled, remember, in South Korea next month.
I think this is something where, the para-athlete is being penalized for no fault of theirs. So we would appeal to the International Committee that they should find a via media under which, pending resolution of this internal problem of a federation, the para-athlete is able to participate.
Meanwhile, let's give you some more sports news now in Sports Beat. The Supreme Court has appointed CBI SP Vivek Priyadarshi to probe the role of former IPL COO Sundar Raman in the spot fixing and betting scam. Priyadarshi will replace BB Mishra, who is retired. The Supreme Court bench also appointed a 3-member team under former Chief Justice of India Rajendra Mal Lodha to decide on the quantum of punishment to Gurunath Mayappan, Raj Kundra and IPL franchisees Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals. In tennis, Leander Paes and Daniel Nestor failed to go beyond the second round of Monte Carlo Masters as the pair bowed out following a close defeat against Benoit Paire and Stan Wawrinka. Seeded 6th, Paes and Nestor lost 4-6, 6-7 in just 67 minutes to the French-Swiss wildcard pair. Paes had been struggling since making the final of the Delray Beach, as this is his fourth tournament in a row where he has not moved beyond the second round. Jurgen Klopp will leave Borussia Dortmund at the end of the season. Klopp, who announced his decision, remained determined to end his time at the club on a high, despite a difficult campaign that he had seen BVB in the relegation zone going into the winter break. He said that he is not on a farewell tour, but his hopes of finishing in the Europa League qualification places in the Bundesliga is being hindered by the loss of several players to injury. And that's all we could pack in on the news tonight from the entire team here. Good night.